If you were talking to an artist from today who maybe is starting in a rock band or maybe even a solo artist, based on your experience, would you recommend that they sign with a label or would you recommend that they stay independent in today's age?
I'd recommend they go back to school.
Okay, there you go. Wild card answer. Welcome back to another episode of Innersleeve. I'm Cassius Morris. Joe Pacheco joining me on the line. Joe, what's happening?
Christmas is happening, my man. Christmas is happening. We're here.
It definitely is, man. It's I can't believe it. It feels like it was just the first of the month yesterday, and boom, we are in the midst of the holidays.
I woke up a week ago thinking, when's Christmas? I go, oh my God, it's next week. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I always have this tunnel, like this weird, like think, it's still a few weeks ahead. You're still a few weeks away. Next thing you know, like, wow, it's here already.
Do you enjoy the holidays? Because I know a lot of people, it's like they seem to either really like it or really dislike it.
It's funny. I was thinking about that the other day now. Like when I remember the excitement as a kid, it was like, wow, Christmas was everything. And then even as like in my 20s, it was still fun parties, hang out with friends, family, big family dinners and stuff. But over the years, it's been less and less like it just passes like a blur for me at this point, So you get a couple of days off and then it's like, I can't even eat half of what I used to eat as a kid, It's like, you'd be like, oh, what does it call it? Food coma, Now I don't even touch it. I make it through the first entree and then I'm done for the day, It's like, but it's kind of, especially now with, COVID and all this stuff, you get to see your family even less. It's like, it's different for sure. It's not like when you're a kid, the magic of Christmas, You?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you because I've sort of always dug Christmas. There's been years where it's sort of I felt down in the dumps because of it, but with the whole COVID and all this stuff, it does feel a bit less magical. So I just want to extend, our love and our good cheer. So, I know it sounds a little corny, but our good cheer to you guys from here at SoundMojo. Whether it's a tough holiday for you, whether it's a really good holiday, we wish you the best holiday season that you can have. And we really appreciate you tuning in with us right here on Christmas Eve. So we have a good episode lined up. Today's guest is none other than Donnie Vie, the frontman and vocalist for the popular rock group Enuff Z'Nuff. If you were an 80s fan of the MTV scene and sort of the hair metal scene, you definitely remember these guys. We chat with him about a ton of stuff, right, Joe? I mean, he did a recent collab with Howard Stern. He has his new box set out, his new flash drive.
Yeah, lots of stuff, man. I mean, like I hadn't kept in touch. Like you'll see in the interview, he says a bit of like they were sort of mispackaged by the label and stuff as a hair band when they weren't, So, but yeah, I mean, it's good to see that he's still like, still has his audience, right? A lot of these guys built their audiences and they, I hate to say the word monetized it, but I'm saying like, in the sense of not money, but in terms of like, the following that they follow him from project to project and stuff. So it's definitely something to learn from.
It definitely is, especially for all of our up-and-coming artists out there. If you want to hear about, just exactly how a label, because, Joe, a lot of people seem to think once you get on a record label, it's like all your problems are over. Yeah, that's when they start, right?
I remember friends of mine getting signed and it was like, wow, we're so happy. But then you realize, man, that's when it starts because a lot of people don't get signed. A lot of people get signed, but then, you still have to write the right stuff and like, with the label, they have to market it right. Sometimes the labels, they see you differently and they package you differently or put you on a tour that doesn't match, and it doesn't always work, or, you could still do pretty well. I mean, I've had friends that sold like, thousands of albums on a label, but for a label that the investment they made didn't make sense, so they were dropped. But I mean, like, had you, in today's industry with NFTs and all that stuff, had you somehow been able to monetize your audience, hey, you sold 30, 40,000 albums, that's some good money for like an independent artist, right?
That's solid.
But for a label that's like, dropping $250,000 on your album, whatever it may be at the time. It's not like that anymore today, I don't think.
Yeah.
But but you still, they still have to make their money back, right?
It's so true. And I think it's a really good sort of masterclass for artists when they can see and hear things like this and stories like this straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and to realize that, it is a business. It's not necessarily as fun and sort of carefree as one might think. So a lot of good stuff coming up for you guys here. Before we jump into a couple of quick news hits, which we're going to bring you before the podcast, just want to remind you that we have all of our SoundMojo merchandise available for purchase. Would have made a pretty good Christmas gift, Joe, I think, if we would have been a week ahead, I would have been saying that. But hey, stock up for next Christmas. We got our hoodies, we got our t-shirts, crew necks. The link is in the bio.
There's always a holiday, right? There's or an event, right? There's Valentine's coming in 2 months. There's like always stuff to,
Birthdays.
Yeah, birthdays.
Exactly. So definitely make sure to check out our merchandise there. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing on SoundMojo, make sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube and also follow us on social media. We're on all socials. That's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at SoundMojo, and every single day of the week, of course, we've been posting On This Day in Music, which is a little takeoff from our segment, right, Joe, that we were doing right here on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been fun to do. It's like a lot of learning, like we put them together and it's like, oh, I didn't know. It was like, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't even remember this about this guy, or I never even heard of this, It's interesting.
So this week in music news, there has been a lot of money made, Joe. Actually, I got to say, this is a pretty tough story to not be happy about if you are a fan of the genre and this artist. Bruce Springsteen has just cut a deal to sell his entire musical catalog, meaning every single piece of music he's ever made, to Sony Entertainment for an estimated $500 million deal. I mean, Joe, this is probably
Christmas.
one of the biggest deals in music history. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Mr.
Christmas.
Springsteen.
Yeah. He's gonna have a good Christmas, or I'm sure he's had many good Christmases.
Yeah,
but no, definitely. Like, I mean, like the guy's a legend. He's, I think he's still as strong today as he ever was in terms of fans and recognition and even just in the material and the performance. I mean, when you go see a Bruce Springsteen show, I've never had the opportunity to go, but I'm thinking it's like a 3-hour. Let's just keep playing music for the fans,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad. Like, it's interesting because some people will be like, well, why would you sell? Because, wait another 10 years, you could probably get 750 million, right? Let's say, whatever, But I mean, come on. When do you pull the plug? I mean, he's 72 years old. He's had an amazing career, wicked legacy. And, now you cash out, man. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. Would you do it?
It's true. I would. I mean, I think it's a very fair point that he could make more, but I think at a certain point when you are 72 and you have so much, it really is a question of what will more money afford me. I mean, if he has the extra 100 million, sure, it's good for his family, but it doesn't, it's not like it's going to affect him too much. And it is interesting too. The deal originally started over with Universal showing interest. They were looking in the ballpark of 300 million, and then Sony came along and eclipsed their deal by more than $200 million. But to answer your question, Joe, yeah, I'd definitely sell. And I mean, I think a lot of people have a bad reaction to this. They're like, oh, the boss is selling out. I mean, look, you don't work your whole life to build a legacy, not to take advantage of the fruits of that labor,
I mean, I don't know. I don't like judging people and stuff. It's their decision and stuff. Like, I know, like, agreed I would have sold out too. But I don't know, like, being in his position and seeing that kind of money offered, maybe, it would make you think, I should just wait a little longer. But anyways, what's done is done. I mean, I just, some people are like, afraid that like now you're going to hear Born to Run on a Nissan commercial or or cat food, or something like that.
Exactly.
That's what people get. But like, hey man, it's whatever, man. I mean, I don't want to judge anybody, but there's still holdouts. There's still a lot of holdouts that haven't. I wonder if there's actually any stipulation in the contract where it's like, well, it can't be licensed for stuff like that, like movies, games, or something, or maybe he has to get approval. We don't know. But with that kind of money, I don't know, like if
some sort of condition.
Maybe there's something like that worked into it. So that's like, I still get final approval on where it goes, but I don't know if someone's paying you $500 million, $500 million. I don't know if I'd want a condition of like, he still controls what I can do with it,
So Springsteen must be close to the $1 billion mark now.
I would imagine, but we don't know their debts and the expenses and stuff. Like these, I don't know how he lives. I don't know much about him. Like I've always been a fan because I've always known Springsteen on the surface. Springsteen, like the singles, the hits, the classics. I've listened to a few albums and it's like, it's like hasn't caught me yet. Sometimes you just need that right moment. Like it might be in a year from now where I'll be like, oh, this just hit me perfectly and I love this album now. But he's a great artist.
Now, jumping over to the United Kingdom, this is a pretty eyebrow-raising story coming from Brian Eno, who is an ambient music pioneer. He's been known for many different sort of aspects in the music industry out of the UK. And Brian Eno says he is not a fan of NFTs. He went on quite a rant, which is being reported by The Verge online, basically saying that NFTs were, quote, mainly hustlers looking for suckers. Now, Joe, what do you make of this whole anti-NFT tirade?
Well, I don't know if it's a tirade there, but it definitely goes against the grain. So what made me think as I was reading it was like, well, this guy's an established artist. He's worked with U2, he's worked with Coldplay, he's worked with like the biggest artists. He's invented stuff. There's I think he's part of has some apps that are music, AI generated kind of music and stuff. So, I mean, he's a pioneer in so many things. So he's probably zigging when everyone's zagging. You know what I mean? That expression, when people are zigging, you zag. So he's probably going, against the grain kind of thing. Or maybe some of the comments were saying like, this guy is like, he's probably so well off. It's like, why do I need to make more money kind of thing? I don't know. But well, obviously people who have been watching and listening to us know we're fans of this thing. And I'm just more curious of like where it's going to go. Because today it's NFTs, but in 3-4 years, it could be something, the NFT name might drop and might not be as catchy. And it's going to be, evolve into something else, which we don't know. But what's your take on this?
I think it's interesting. I don't really, for what he's saying, I guess I understand the concept of what he's saying, but I don't understand what he's trying to say as a negative about it. Like, for example, the quote continues, NFTs to me seem to be a way for artists to get a little piece of the action from global capitalism. How sweet. Now artists can become little capitalists as well. And I'm like, okay, I guess if you're anti-capitalist, it sort of goes with the narrative to say that. But we're in an era where artists are making how many pennies on the dollar on Spotify, right? And I mean, these are the conversations that we constantly have.
Like you sell back in the day, if you sold a CD for $10, or even today, if you're on tour, which I don't know who's on tour at this point, but like if you're on tour and you're selling one CD is equivalent to about 3,000 streams. So if you're selling it for $10, it's 3,000 streams, So yeah, exactly. It's, I don't see an issue with artists making money because, like you said, like they've been getting the short end of the stick since Napster started, and then, streaming, had a bit of a saving, like you didn't need to pirate music anymore. So it's like, why pirate? It's $10 a month. You have everything. But yeah, I agree that, like these guys are making 6-figure salaries while the artists are the ones, funding the whole initiative technically, but let the artists make some money, man. Let them control, basically give them a control of their audience. Like Facebook, when it started, it was great. You can make a page and it would go up to 10, 20,000 likes, but then they let you go build your audience. And now you have to pay to reach your audience, which really sucks,
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I don't have a problem with Brian Eno inherently. I know he's done a lot of great work and all due respect to him for that. But when I'm looking at the comments here, I do sort of chuckle at a guy with a $60 million net worth talking to independent artists about how they shouldn't be capitalizing off their work. That's sort of comical to me.
That's why I don't want to believe that someone like maybe like people say he's jaded now, he's old, he's older, has different view, is established, he's comfortable. But I think it's because this guy goes deep. He's a deep kind of guy, deep thinker. So I'm thinking he's going against the grain towards something else. 'Cause I mean, like he says in the article he's been approached many times now for NFTs, and it probably would be the easiest lift in the world at this point to make some Brian Eno NFTs and to make money. So kudos to him in the sense of like he's not just gonna take what's the expression, a grab bag and just make money and run with it.
Right.
Maybe that's one thing. Leave some for the rest of us kind of thing. But I mean, I don't know. I mean,
maybe we'll reach out to him and get his take on it.
That would be cool. Yeah. Hit us up or we'll hit you up.
Now, as promised, we're going to head over to our guest on this week's Innersleeve. We're going to take a little trip over to Chicago, Illinois, and chat with Donnie Vie of Enuff Z'Nuff, also acclaimed solo artist. We chat about his collaboration with Howard Stern recently, his brand new music he's been releasing in a bunch of creative ways, and much, much more. And we'll be back right after this with a few takeaways.
It's party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. We'll have a good time.
So what's been going on, man? I know you have a bunch of new releases out. I know you've been very active on your socials. Maybe give us a little update.
Just released a flash drive with it's all my solo stuff on it, with a new record worth of stuff that I did in my home studio. And it's got all my 6 records, probably about 40, 50 videos on it. And it's like, here, I'll show you. Looks like this.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a backstage pass.
Yeah,
lanyard,
it's also that.
Yeah.
It also works
That's
as
good.
so that's the incentive to get it, not just download it,
Totally.
But I
exactly.
got a new video and a song out called Party Time. It's doing pretty good, and the things are selling decent, and now it's just time to start booking shows.
Are you excited to get back there and book shows? And have you done anything sort of in person since the pandemic started to come to I don't know if it's coming to a close, but it's starting to open up a bit, maybe.
Yeah, I've done one full band show in 7 years, and and then I think a couple of acoustic storyteller things, but that's about it in 7 years. Yeah.
And how does it feel to be getting back? Is there are you more excited? Are you more nervous? What exactly is the feeling?
Tired.
Okay.
all the physical starts now, and that's where you have to get rid of smoking. You got to do all that shit and sort of try to get in shape. And it's a lot to it when you're putting the band together, and you haven't been out playing for quite a while. 7 years is a long time. So usually though, once we get there, things will go okay.
100%, just business as usual once you get up there. And in terms of the flash drive, how far back does this material go? Is this a lot of vintage material, newer stuff, or sort of a mix?
It's all my solo stuff. I do believe Just Enough was the first one. I think that was around the time of Enuff Z'Nuff, Welcome to Blue Island, which was close to 98, 99. So that's the first solo record. And then there's what other ones are there? There's Extra Strength, where I redid the Strength record, intimate versions. There's Wrapped Around My Middle Finger, the White Album, and Beautiful Things. And then, like I said, another record's worth of new material with Party Time and the other odds and ends.
You mentioned a bunch of videos. You have a lot of videos that are on the flash drive. Like, is it all the videos you've made, or is there stuff that people have never seen? All
the things that no, there's stuff you haven't seen, and all the things, like I said, it's all from the solo stuff. It's not no Enuff Z'Nuff stuff on this thing.
Awesome. And so when you're recording in your home studio, what exactly is that process like? Are you recording things and sending them to be mixed, or are you doing everything yourself in-house?
I do as much as I can in-house, all the basic tracks. I usually program the drums first, and then I'll have somebody replay those and replay all the stuff, that needs to be played, and then send it out to mix. I couldn't mix it.
Well, you already have to wear a lot of hats today. You have to do everything pretty much on your own. So I might as well delegate a little bit of the work.
And during the creative, that's probably the easiest thing for me, because I'm putting together all the parts and thinking of them all. And, it takes a little bit of time to try all the wrong parts to find the right one, then something just clicks and it's like magic. And when you have the time to afford it, have somebody breathing down your back or let's go, all this shit like that. So I have the time and kind of do it on my own pace, so there's no pressure or anything. It's like I said, terrible anxiety, going to get some treatment next week for that shit, because it's just getting crippling sometimes, can't even speak.
Was that something that you faced for your entire life, or is that sort of a newer thing?
No, I've had it my entire life. I just overly medicated.
Okay.
In the old days, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's one thing to have that, and then to be like a frontman, it's almost like contradictory, right? Like to be a frontman and then to have that sort of anxiety.
I definitely wasn't, I was shy and insecure and stuff as a kid, and then all of a sudden, boom, right into Enuff Z'Nuff and lead singer of a national act, so, Yeah, that was something else. And I mean, I couldn't even get up on the stage without a few beers or a few drinks and stuff. And then that took on a life of its own, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So in terms of the box set, now obviously people are really excited about that. What exactly is included in the new box set?
Oh, I really don't have much say so or don't really follow the business of that. You know, we did a licensing deal with the label Cleopatra. And they've just been re-releasing, you know, the records on vinyl and stuff like that. And I guess this box set is old demos, like from before our first record.
Okay, very cool. You know,
I don't have they didn't send me a copy, so I don't even have one.
You haven't heard it yet?
No. I've heard it all. But I don't have a copy, so I don't know what's on it.
No, that's interesting. Would you say that when you're making music solo, how exactly does that compare to the dynamic when you're making music with Enuff Z'Nuff? Is it very much the same or very much different?
In a lot of ways, it's the same, you know, but when you're working with other artists and other egos and other production styles, you know, that kind of stamped, you know, kind of a certain production style through a lot of it. I tried to go outside the box and stuff as much as I could, you know, more organic and stuff. But, you know, you kind of got your one arm tied behind your back when you're doing something like that, you know, and that was something that, you know, we had issues with. And I'm the main writer, you know, or was the main writer and, you know, the singer. And, you know, there's been a lot of times where I thought things could have been cooler, you know, but as a solo artist, yeah, it's, you know, I get the full vision. I can do what I want. I'm pretty happy with it.
And I still don't know what's all the fuss about. If the flowers grow, well, I feel alright. But I'm not okay.
Yeah, going back to, you know, being on a major label in the heyday and going through that whole process of how labels release stuff and having to deal like with a democratic kind of process. Now you have full control, and with all the gatekeepers sort of gone, like obviously it must be like heaven for you in terms of I could just do what I want and you have a fan base.
Yeah, that's, you know, I prefer that, you know, but of course, when you had the major labels and stuff, you had that major push and the money behind it and everything. And, you know, after our first couple of Enuff records, when we went to indie and stuff like that, you know, a lot of people think you died in a plane crash. They have no idea where you are and they don't know you're still out and still around. And I just talked to a guy, a booking agent today, and he didn't even know there was more than the first two Enuff Z'Nuff records.
Wow.
So obviously he's probably not the guy to use.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to his defense, the scene did like 180 shift after all the grunge stuff came out. So maybe like, you know, a lot of artists got lost in that shuffle, you know?
Yeah, we definitely did. We had 1 month of the 80s. You know what I mean? Our record came out in November of 89. Yeah. And just wasn't a whole lot of thought or, you know, the label didn't put a whole lot of thought and thinking about longevity of the career and stuff. They had a tendency to, especially in the late 80s and stuff, it's just whatever they're selling, you know, more of that,
Yeah.
you know, and that didn't really work out for us because we weren't, you know, that shouldn't have been what the band was focused on. You know what I mean? It was they listened with their eyes and not their ears sometimes.
That's it.
The videos were cool and they were colorful and they were bright and we were new and it sounded, you know, different than all the other bands. So things were going really good and coming out of the box, you know, but then all of a sudden it wasn't just grunge and stuff coming in. It's like around that time, all the labels were like falling apart and reorganizing here and reorganizing there. And so you didn't know what was going on. And so that didn't pan out for us whatsoever. They're changing formats and stuff like that. And, you know, and like I said, you know, we kind of got lumped in with those hair bands and all that stuff. And so it was out with them. So we kind of, you know, washed out with those guys for, you know, quite a bit. It took us some time to have our loyal fan base, you know, find us and keep, you know, watching and keep us in business.
Yeah.
Very appreciative of that.
No, 100%. If you were talking to an artist from today who maybe is starting in a rock band or maybe even a solo artist, based on your experience, would you recommend that they sign with a label or would you recommend that they stay independent in today's age?
I'd recommend they go back to school.
Okay, there you go. Wild card answer.
Yeah,
That's an answer I never thought I'd agree with.
yeah, this is not a great day and age for rock bands and stuff like that. You know, it's once again we're in one of those periods where they're just stamping out more of the same. You know what I mean? Just you know, keep going. You have a few big artists, you know, that are you know, quote unquote rock stars. You know, but there's a lot of, I don't really know personally, so I don't like to speak too much about that. It's just what I've experienced and what I'm hearing, and you know, I don't listen to a whole lot of music. I'm kind of a TV buff.
Well, you're making your own, so you only have so much time, right?
Yeah, I'm sick of it by then.
Yeah, exactly. Do you find when you listen to some music that you really, really love, does it ever like get imprinted in your brain and you find yourself subconsciously putting it into your own music? Has that ever happened?
If I hear anything that's even slightly sounds like something else, I'll usually bag it, you know, rework it or something. Not into plagiarism or anything that even remotely resembles plagiarism, you know, and I got plenty of ideas, and the ideas come from out there to me, you know, and then I filter them in and try not to fuck them up and get to, you know, record this stuff.
Because I've heard comedians say, for example, when they watch one guy do jokes, they'll go on stage and start kind of talking in that cadence subconsciously.
Yeah, well, the influences that I had growing up in the formative years and stuff, you'll hear a lot of that in what I do. You know, you can get a great education in how to structure and write a song, you know, by just like the Beatles. You get all that orchestration, you get all that short amount of time they did everything, and that's the first thing that I was listening to, and that kind of etched something into my mind, and I was able to kind of blend in with things, you know what I mean, was able to structure a song. You know, my very first songs, they seemed structured and they were pretty good, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually had a question here. When did you write your first song, and like, do you still remember what it was like?
I think I was 15, around between 15 and 16 when I had my first girlfriend. You know, that's where the songs come from. Yeah.
Got the creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
Was it a happy song or a sad song?
No, they're never happy songs, and with love, you know what I mean? You might have one and then all the rest of them are you're heartbroken or pissed off or some shit like that, you know, spiteful. But there's some happy, but you know, if a fucked up girlfriend's a gold mine for writing. You know?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That honeymoon phase goes quick. It's crazy. You know, thinking about the new video for Party Time, I was curious about the Batman influence. Was Batman something that you really liked growing up, or was that more of just a fun thing?
Well, the 66 Batman, that was, I mean, when I was a kid, you had like 3 or 4 channels. That's it. And, you know, you had certain shows that after school, you know, you'd watch, and Batman, of course, was one of them. And I never pictured myself as, you know, superhero, and I still don't, especially after that video. But that all stemmed from the team that we used to record it. The guy also had a tie-in with a private collection auto museum, and in there was the Batmobile and the Bat Cycle and stuff like that. And so it's like, well, we got to use that, you know. And before you know it, it turns into that. You know what I mean?
That's so cool. So are you very hands-on with your videos, or do you like to sort of find people and sort of let them take care of the concepts and then you star in it, kind of thing?
It's kind of somebody kind of has a vision, or, you know, a director, producer, director, you know, and then, you know, I'll vamp it from there, work on it, you know, from that point.
Here he is doing Instant Karma, Donnie Vie and the Love Brigade.
He's still singing. Okay.
He's still singing. Donnie still sings. This is Donnie Vie and the Love Brigade, and he sent me Instant Karma, and it's true. Listen to him singing John Lennon. I think the guy's terrific.
Instant Karma's gonna get you.
Oh, what a great voice.
Knock you right on the head.
Got a great voice.
You better get yourself together. Pretty soon you're gonna be dead. Well, you think
I know that you have something else that came out, which was really cool, which was you reworked a Howard Stern song. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, they sent it to me, asking if they said it's not something they're taking seriously and this and that, So Howard had written a inappropriate sort of parody song, and they sent it to me and asked if I'd like to just sing it, give my rendition of it, And when I started trying to figure out how to sing this and make it sound cool, because I needed to deliver for these guys, But I ended up writing a chorus for it, so it was a bit pretentious, but they seemed to like it.
They did. How far back does the relationship with Stern go, and how exactly did that begin?
I had never heard of him until we were on his show the first time, and I guess he was huge in New York and stuff. And so we weren't from New York, so we didn't really, never heard of him. But I think we went in there pretty close to right when the first stuff was coming out, or towards the end of the first record, and he loved us right away. We loved him. We were good friends with him for quite a while, and we could see spikes in sales and stuff whenever we were on the show. You would see like a 20,000, sales, and you see the spikes, So it was very, very key to a lot of that earlier success. Besides MTV and radio and everything, which you don't have anymore. But Howard reached a lot of people, and when he had his endorsement, that had a lot of influence out there, and so, but we were good buddies with us. We enjoyed him. He enjoyed us. We always, play in the studio. I always bring an acoustic guitar and play something in there, a Beatles song or something for him, and he always loved that.
Man, that's so cool. And it seems like he speaks very highly of you, and he loves the entire group and hold you guys in really high regard. One thing I'm wondering is, you probably did see that there was an incident at a music festival this past weekend where there were multiple casualties due to crowd control issues. I'm just wondering, have you ever had issues like that where either somebody's passed out in the crowd or people rushing? And if so, how did you deal with that situation?
In the early days, we'd had a few. You really don't know about it, till after it's over. You know what I mean? If you see something going on, of course, I would do something about it, And there was times, where I just decided to go flying into the audience and stuff, and I'm almost killed. so
you have to save yourself sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you have to, when they rip your shirt off and your hair out of your head, and it's something else. But you think twice about doing that after a while. But in the early days, they were pretty nuts. The fans were pretty nuts.
Man, they were rabid, it sounds like. And could you ever see an age where they stop having general admission shows, or do you think that will continue?
Well, I think they kind of have to now. You do your pre-sales and stuff, but they have to take anything, because everything's been heavily affected by COVID and all that. A lot of venues went out of business. A lot of them are doing different, way of doing business. And, like I said, I haven't been out touring for quite a while. And so, we'll see.
No, 100%. What were some of the things that you learned throughout the pandemic, or maybe skills that this whole thing has helped you with? Do you find that it's helped you at all in terms of relating to the fans or anything, or was it just a hindrance and you were waiting for it to get back to normal?
Well, it didn't really affect me too much. We were just getting ready to start to go out and play, and held up a single, and it didn't really affect me too much. It didn't, disturb my routine. I'm just hanging out, writing songs, recording, watching TV, this and that, and growing plants, messing around with this and that. So it didn't affect me that much. And because I hadn't been out touring or playing, we were just getting ready to start, and did one rock show, and it did really well. And so, it was time to really get to work, and that's where the physical all starts, you know what I mean? And with the anxiety I got, and I'm not medicated anymore, it's going to be interesting,
Mm-hmm. So you're gearing up for that, though.
Yeah. We're just got a couple agents now, and we're seeing what happens. We're, setting up shows within the next few weeks, because you have to have a right amount of promotional time, So if they know I'm there, they'll be there. If they don't, you're just playing to empty spaces. And that's never good for business and for, word of mouth and your reports on things like that. And of course, you'd always rather have, the report is the people couldn't get in. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
so even if it means playing a slightly smaller venue so that, it's packed and people can't get in is better than, a place that has 200 and 300 bodies not there. You know what I mean?
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Are you touring? Are you guys cold touring with anybody to help fill in the stuff, or are you on your own?
That's there's a couple options with that. I got a storytellers acoustic show that I do, and that's just me and another guy. Then there's the full band. Yeah, it depends on what which agent it is and who they got on their roster, and how big the artist is, how many bodies they do, or so I prefer my own shows because I got 25 records worth of stuff to cover, all this enough shit, all my new stuff, stuff in between, like a breakdown piece in the set. And so that's what the preference is, but then you get, like opening for somebody that's got a decent name or whatever. It's exposure, just to get their fans and their crowd. It's just as long as you're out with somebody that makes sense to be out with, and so, like I said, we'll see what's happening. The opening slots, there's not a whole lot of things that I could see myself really blending with, as I have a little more unique of a sound, and a lot of bands at this level, artists at this level, nobody basically is anything close to what I do, So we'll see what happens. Like I said, that's all yet to be seen.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know that on your solo recordings, you've done a lot of different instruments. Can we expect to see you playing a variety of instruments live? And sort of to add to that, how many instruments do you actually know how to play?
I don't think I know how to play any of them, but I fumble and hack away on.
I beg to differ, sir.
I can play just about anything, but I'm not one of those guys that sits and noodles and practices all the time. You know what I mean? So every time I go to track a song, I'm kind of learning how to play guitar all over again, and just the dexterity and the muscle memory and shit like that, but yeah, I play everything, but like I said, I'm I fumble with a lot of stuff. I do a lot of the guitar and shit for Z'Nuff. I did most of it after Frigo left, and on my solo stuff, I've had some good players on my last record, but previous to that, I did just about everything, bass, the guitars, the vocals, keyboards, and live. I'll just be doing like, fronting or a guitar for some songs and piano for some songs.
We often ask this question to artists, like, is there someone you'd love to collaborate with that you either didn't get the chance or?
You know what? I've been thinking about that. I've been asked that a few times lately. And when I'm being asked, I kind of get a brain cramp, and it's really like, who do you, there's certain people. I'd love to write with the guy from Oasis, the writer from that band, something in my genre. My last record, I had Roger Manning from Jellyfish playing on it. He did a really good job, and he's playing on Party Time too. And
cool.
Yeah, I haven't actually collaborated with him, you know what I mean? But we've worked together now, and I'd like to do some collaborating. It's just a matter of finding, somebody that wants to do it, and blending what they do, their vision with my vision. But I like when somebody has something and I can, kind of see where I can go with that, as opposed to starting everything from scratch, and by myself. And I don't know, maybe the guy from Oasis, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe the STP guys.
Yeah, I get those guys are good. But would you do anything, example, if it worked, or if, it just hit you in the right moment, would you do anything with like somebody outside of your normal genres? Let's say like electronic or, I don't know, hip hop or something. Like if it felt right to you and like, this is really cool, would you do something outside of it?
I would definitely explore it. I would definitely be interested in checking it out. I mean, what's the worst that can happen is it doesn't work, but that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. There's just to see how I would do in my songwriting and singing with a more modern type production, and other, I've like done a few things, with these, metal guys and stuff like that. I don't really blend with that well because I don't have that shrieky high voice and stuff like that. And when if you're working with me, it's 9 times out of 10, my idea will be better. No, but not that's just because of the guys, it just depends on the guys. And I'd love to have a guy that really has something to bring to the party and do my thing to that, or vice versa. And, I'm pretty much a melodies guy, but if you're working with me, and if somebody's already got like their song pretty much structured and they're looking for me to sing it or fine tune it and stuff like that, usually I'll probably end up rewriting the melody and stuff like that to suit, fitting for myself.
Because like your vocal style and the harmonies that you do are what I think would be really interesting with some electronic production, like not like the standard rock band, but like everything else is just your vocal. And I think it would be really cool.
Send them over. I'll give it a shot,
Speaking of studio, are you like a one take guy, or are you like one of those guys who will obsess over a take?
One take. No. The closest I would come to that would probably be a vocal, and no, there's nothing as one take, Maybe
so it's like you'll obsess over something. Yeah.
One take is that, that's about it.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I follow the song. I let the song tell me what it wants to be. And I can kind of hear like a ballpark idea of what I'm looking for this part or that part or something like that. And like I said, you try things and you try things and try things. And then all of a sudden it's like abracadabra, something locks and it's like, oh, there we go. And, then you keep going on and on. And that's just the only way that I'll put something out is if I feel everything is right. A lot of Z'Nuff stuff, there's a lot of songs I might have wanted to revamp, or you can't go, well, I wished I'd have done this or this and that, but yeah, I like that. That's the freedom that I have now. And I write a lot of stuff. I have a lot of songs. There's always a backlog of ideas and stuff. And so if something's not kicking my ass, it'll go back in the woodpile until it is ready.
It's good that you have that standard though, and it's like you know exactly when you're hitting the mark. And I mean, so much experience, obviously you're going to know. You mentioned your love for the Beatles, and obviously we see Yellow Submarine behind you there. Who is the greatest Beatle, or maybe it's hard to say the greatest in general. Who's your favorite Beatle and why?
Yeah, that's it's like which one of your children is your favorite child?
Exactly.
It's like one of those. It's like they're both great for their individuality, but together, the planets aligned. Well, not both. I mean, George started writing some pretty good stuff towards the end. But mainly it was John and Paul. If I think of my favorite Beatles, would be those guys. But I've gone through periods like when I was really young, when I was just starting to listen to music and stuff. I kind of gravitated towards Paul a little bit. I think because he was cute. And, and he had the higher voice and stuff like that. And it's a little more clearer. And then, of course, John is, the rock songs and everything from the early days. And then, then John died. So then John's everybody's favorite Beatle, you know what I mean? But I just think, they both did a lot of really good stuff, solo. But nothing, I don't think, compares to the magic that they had when they were together, and so it's just, it depends on what song today, if something comes out, and if that'll be my favorite Beatle for the day,
I was just going to say, is it the same with the albums or?
Yeah.
I think I like them sort of in the order that they were released, just that's how I was exposed to them. I started out with my little 45 Ticket to Ride 45 and just went from there, and I mean, I didn't have I couldn't afford records when I was a kid. I would just have to, my little tape recorder, I'd record some of my friends or my uncle's records and stuff like that. And the shit that I had at home was like my mom's stuff, and she'd be listening to like Neil Diamond, Jesus Christ Superstar, adult CHR, contemporary Mary Manilow and stuff. But I picked up a lot of stuff from that too, subconsciously. It's all in there. Motown,
Yeah.
Motown was big for me. All the soul and shit like that, 60s, 70s. The black artists, and I liked all that shit. I like the melodic stuff. You get like Squeeze or Elvis Costello, or just melodic things, Cheap Trick, things like that. And then I kind of was off to the races. Then once I got going, once I started writing and stuff, I instantly knew that I have a knack for this, because this first song was pretty good, and structured structured pretty well. And I try not to put anything shitty out, because I'm a fan of the influences that I listened to in the formative years. I'm a big fan of stuff, and I'm still a big fan of a lot of things that I'm not exposed to too much. You know what I mean? You don't hear a lot of music and a lot of bands when you're watching South Park or Curb Enthusiasm and shit like that. But
Maybe some parodies, but
I did a whole parody record. It's called Guilt and Shame. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's inappropriate hillbilly shit, and I think it's pretty funny. It's with a 7-year-old boy. It made it a lot more funny, But those were fun. That was fun to write those. You can basically start with a title. I don't ever write a song usually starting from the title, except that stuff.
That must have been a fascinating process.
It's probably more, it's probably some of my most fun stuff to write, and there's no pressure on it. You don't have to worry about everything being perfect and this and that, and they're funny, and it's like I've done so much of this other stuff that's like a switch, or is a change from this, and I'm an idiot. So I'm easy at writing idiot stuff. It comes to me, and I kind of have a lot more fun, sometimes with that shit than I do with my own stuff. It's a little, at this point, it's getting a little, I don't know about trickier, but to keep coming up with something new when you've got that many songs, and for every for every record worth of 10 to 15 songs, there's probably 3 records worth that didn't make that. That didn't make that record, and they just go into the back and in the woodpile. And sometimes they resurface, sometimes parts of them resurface. You know what I mean? And sometimes they're decent, but they just didn't fit that record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to check out the McCartney 321 with what did you think about that?
That was great. I loved it. It was great. I like music. I like the rock documentaries. I like those.
I love the fact that when you get to hear stuff that's like soloed, and you just get to hear the individual, and then actually the guy's right there next to him, and of course it's I forgot the producer's name. I'm drawing a blank now. He's with
Rick Rubin.
There you go, Rick Rubin.
Okay.
It seemed like Paul was just hearing some of these old tracks for the first time in a long time, and just to see his reaction and his his impression of what it is, and he's pretty surprised usually, but yeah, that's really cool, sit there and listen to your old. It isn't for me. I don't like to sit and listen to old tracks, Really? When I'm done with it, I'm done with it. But I can imagine that, that was the Beatles. He's listening to shit, and everything wasn't as oversaturated as it nowadays. But there's a lot of that stuff. You can get the things broken up in tracks,
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of just like John Bonham was my first. Just listening to John Bonham solo without any of the Zeppelin stuff is just, I could listen to that for days.
Yeah, what a sound he had too, and very unconventional. I was just reading something in my Google feed today about him. Andy Johns was talking about recording his drums and shit when they went to that castle or whatever it was, and the drum sound the drum sound they got in that big hallway and the stairwell and stuff like that. And it was just 2 microphones that recorded that whole thing. No mic on the kick. You know what I mean? Nothing's mic'd up individually, and I like the sound of that personally. I'm not a big fan of that. Each drum is mic'd and so distinct, and I like the sound of a kit together. You know what I mean? More than individual drums. And sometimes of course you might want to have to bring up the level of something, so you can always play to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, Glenn and Andy Johns, that's what they were known for, right? That sound of how they recorded the kit in studios. There's even courses you can get to get that sound, like how the mics are set up, right? It's like in all different positions. It's interesting.
Well, everything was new. They were
Yeah.
experimenting with things, and I mean, the late '60s is when they, first started having, a lot of multi-tracking, shit
Yeah.
like that. And so, if anybody knows anything about recording a song in modern production, it's usually you got 8, 9, 10 tracks just for the drums alone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got your underneath and your over drum. You got this, and you got one in the next room, and you got one next door.
You got
Shit
the
like
mono.
that, picking up that.
The mono room mic. Yeah, I know it's endless.
Mm.
But that's why I find like my favorite period was the 70s and almost any genre of music, be it classical, be it jazz, be it rock, right? Because these guys got to experiment. They got to open up. They weren't limited. So they got to experiment. And this is why I find such fantastic music in that whole decade.
Well, the labels in those days too were as serious about everything, and as the bands and the artists, it was really all about breaking different artists and careers, setting up careers. And you had DJs in those days. You know what I mean? You guys are the
Yep.
closest thing to DJs anymore, where you can actually play what you want and stuff. And so that's the sign of a good DJ, is when he would find, really cool stuff, and a lot of times it wasn't the single, it was something else on the record that they'd push and shit. And then it would catch on, and you get, and, because up to a certain point, artists would be growing up being influenced by what they liked and stuff. And the bands that, became, big stars and shit. And so then the next generation, when it's their turn, then they do the same. And then the next generation will evolve from where they left off, and, and things like that. And it just really, everything has changed. Everything is so much different. And, there's good things about it, and there's a lot of bad things about it, but just like anything else in the world, the internet and
Exactly.
computer and overexposure and all that shit is taking its toll on the arts. There's probably a lot of good stuff out there. It's just you'll never find it.
That's it.
That's true. It's such a challenge to stay up on all this stuff, but we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here, Donnie. And we're really excited about, of course, Enuff Z'Nuff box set, but most of all, the flash drive and Party Time. So we encourage everybody to go check that out. And is there anything else you wanted to add? Maybe your socials or anything?
Just go to my website, donnievie.com. It's got all the info for everything else. You can follow it there. I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you very much for thinking of me, and it was a pleasure.
It's party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. If it's a good time, I don't mind. Party time. We'll have a good time. It doesn't matter where you are. Following a falling star.
Want to send a big thank you to Donnie Vie for taking the time to chat with us on episode 53 of Innersleeve. Really appreciate him going through with this too. He mentioned that he's been having a bit of a hard time with the interviews lately.
Yeah, he came off the top with saying he was having a really strong case of anxiety, and it's a very real thing. You could see throughout like that he was like he made a really nice effort to accommodate us, for the interview. Because he could have just canceled, right? He could have just said like I'm not feeling it today, and no, but he came through, and it's interesting because we asked him about the anxiety and being a frontman. It seems like counterintuitive to like be a frontman of a band and have that social anxiety or the anxiety to perform. And like there's many other artists that feel this way and deal with this. Like I've read Adele, Lana Del Rey. There's so many artists that have this anxiety, and yet they're massive front women and frontmen. What's your
Who
take
you'd
on
never
that?
expect would have it, Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I think it is commendable, not only that he went through with it, but the fact that he was open and honest about it. So many people who have anxiety, it's like a secret and they never want to admit it. And there's always a different reason. But I don't know. Maybe we're in a world now where these things are becoming, since there's awareness of it more, it's more accepted.
I agree. I think you're spot on, man. It's like it's more, which is a good thing in general, like that people can just talk about it openly and not have to hide behind it or shy away from, or keep them. What I'm really impressed about with people that have that is that like it could have just stopped them. It could have just said like, no, I'm a great singer, but I'm just scared or I don't know what it is. I have panic attacks, right, and stuff like that. So it's like it's great that like they can push through. You know, that takes
Yeah.
a lot of guts, man, to like put yourself out there, because like especially at that level, right? And these levels, like,
Totally.
it's so easy for people to just dump on you and like, you know, insult you, and like, and they keep going through, man. So it's like kudos to them. It's
Yeah,
a
the whole
struggle.
idea that somehow once you achieve a certain level of fame or money that you are then void of human emotions is it couldn't be farther from the truth, you know. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of artists.
It's funny because like there's an author I like to read a lot called Ryan Holiday, and he put out a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And that's kind of the idea. Like their obstacle was anxiety, and that's the way. And that's the way they
Interesting,
made
yeah.
it. They went right through it and like, or around it, or, you know, but they figured out a way. So the obstacle is usually the way, right? If there's always something in our path, that's the way you got to go. You know, I mean, no,
That's
I'm not
cool.
I'm not saying suggesting, you know, like hurt yourself or do damage to yourself, but
Yeah.
I mean, like
Within
work through
reason.
it. Yeah, work through it, you know, and like and just trust the process. That's the one thing, you know.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, again, we really appreciate you, Donnie, for taking the time to get through this with us. And we appreciate you guys for checking us out. I know it's the holiday weekend here in 2021. If you're watching this in present day, and like we said off the top, just thanks for, you know, choosing to spend your Christmas Eve with us here. And thank you for tuning in. We have all of our links in the description below to our merchandise, to our social media. Our On This Days are getting posted every single day on socials. Joe, I mean, what else do we have?
I'm sure there's so much more coming down the pipeline.
We got a lot. Music videos, almost every
Yeah.
single day on YouTube.
That's it. Yeah, we just keep you know, finding new artists. Some artists that we've already signed are re-releasing. They're at the stage of re-releasing more new music. So there's new music coming down the pipeline as well.
A lot of cool stuff, and a very cool some sort of compilation. I'm just going to tease it at that. We're putting something together for 2022 that's going to be really cool, so definitely don't miss that. And make sure also, if you're a fan of the show, you can also catch us if you're on the go. A lot of our YouTube listeners may not realize this. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, pretty much any
Anywhere.
place you can, anywhere you can find your podcast, we are available. So make sure to check us out. And if you do check us out, please give us one of those beautiful 5-star reviews and let us know how we're doing. We love those reviews, right, Joe?
Yep, love them.
We love them to death. So as much as we love you guys. So thanks so much for tuning in to episode number 53 of Innersleeve. We'll catch you guys next week.